We've got a cracking panel for you today, guys, and I'll be introducing the four of them one by one in a second. But first, to just say something about me. So I started in the advertising industry in the 1980s, and I was what was known as an account man, but now is probably more likely called client service exec. An account man does not have anything to do with accountancy, but account men in advertising are very much the people at the center of everything who get everything to happen. And this really suited me because I'm very energetic and extrovert and persuasive and organized, all qualities that made me very good at that job. And I have to say that my career has been great fun and often very well paid. And I've now moved sideways into teaching people about our industry and giving them skills within the industry to do really well. So without further ado, our wonderful panel. Could I ask, first of all, Marcia to introduce herself?
Hello, good morning, everyone. My name is Marcia. I am a hair and makeup designer and I work in high-end television and film. My job really is to, I've been doing it now for 5 years, and my job is to design the looks for all of the cast. Looks don't end with the face. They are all over the body, wherever makeup is required. So it could be a scar, a bullet wound, a big prosthetic piece. And so I design all of those looks. Basically, it means I work through a script and pull out every single element of anything that would be considered as makeup. And I do a lot of research in basically everything, scars, bullet wounds. It's a very, very interesting job. I started out as a retail makeup artist, which is probably the best way to start because you learn a lot about people and communication.
Thank you very much, Marcia. And I have to say that it never occurred to me that your role would include everything visual. So it never occurred to me that a makeup artist would be also creating very impressive bullet wounds. Yeah. So thank you very much for that. And could I ask Jerry to introduce himself?
Hi, Gwen. Hi, everyone. I'm Jerry. I'm a lawyer. I'm a trainee solicitor. I've been in that job for less than a year, so my backstory is very different. But just concentrating on the current role, I work for a law firm called Counterculture, and the clue's in the name. I'm still within the creative industries in the sense that our law firm, most of our clients are creative clients. So they might be theatres, film companies, they might be museums, they're often charities, people in the third sector and the creative industries. So we provide legal services for those. I suppose you may want to ask, what are the legal services? So an example might be a theatre company can often and will often become a charity. So perhaps they will come to us and say, how can we convert our theatre company into a charitable organisation and reap all the benefits of being a charitable organisation? Or perhaps a film production company might come to us and say, we're expanding, we're going to take on lots of staff, we need you to have a look at all the contracts we're about to draw up for the staff and review what we've got already, advise us on what we might need in terms of extra things, and draft, we call it, draw up documents that they might need. So those are a couple of examples.
Fantastic, thank you. I would never have occurred to me that a theatre would need solicitors. So that's opened my eyes as well. Eugene, you've also got a fascinating job within the creative industries. Please tell us all about yourself.
Thank you, Gwyn. So I'm Eugene. I'm a production accountant and I also work in the TV and film industry. I work for Netflix and I started my Netflix journey in 2018, actually as a trainee. So some of the main parts of my role would be doing things like processing payroll for all the crew that are on board, making payments to vendors. So for example, when construction for offsets are happening, if we need to buy goods to do that, and all the sorts of things that go into making a production. So my current role is with the prep wrap team, and we look after shows in the very earliest stages of production. So during the development stages, when scripts are being pulled together, and the early prep stages when, for example, Marcia would be coming on board and looking at all the aspects of makeup and costume and so on. So yeah, that's a little bit about me. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Eugene. Much broader than I'd thought. And finally, but definitely not least, Lisa, please introduce yourself.
Good morning. My name is Lisa and I'm the head of people for Cogent. So I work for an integrated marketing and creative agency in the West Midlands. So we do all sorts of things through to creating adverts, sometimes TV, production. So it's a very, very varied environment in which to work. So as head of people for our agency, my role is hugely varied. So no 2 days are the same. And it's this variety of the role which I absolutely love. No 2 days are the same. So I cover all areas from recruitment to onboarding, so that's welcoming new joiners and supporting them to settle into their new jobs. I also cover monthly payroll as well, so make sure our colleagues are paid correctly. I produce insight reports and statistics for our management team and the board so that we can keep ahead of trends and patterns which we can apply to ongoing improvement in retention and attraction of talent to our agency. I'm also our CPD, which stands for Continuing Professional Development Manager, which means I also support everyone in our agency to continue to learn, to grow and develop in their roles and careers. I also support the agency in their commitment to becoming a more inclusive and diverse business. So you can see it's a very, very varied role.
It's tremendous. I mean, just if you were CPD manager, I personally know how busy that would keep you. Goodness knows how you manage to do all the other things as well. And definitely learning and teaching people is something that I never anticipated doing working for ad agencies. So I think we really understood there that there are a lot of jobs that you probably don't know about in the creative industries. I mean, it never even occurred to me that there were solicitors, for example. So what we're going to do now is lift the lid on what actually happens behind the scenes and what a typical day is like. So what would be great is if we could, and we'll kick off with Eugene in a second, if you could all share more about what a typical day is like for you and what are the highlights? What are the highlights of your day? So Eugene, let's kick off with you, please.
So yeah, a typical day, it's a real mix for me. At any given time, I could be working on a number of shows at various different stages of productions. And so a typical day could be, I could be in a meeting about onboarding crew and setting up a show with accounting software. And then I could be processing payroll or making payments to vendors. Often at the end of a show, there's sort of a large number of items that are kept in storage, and it might be that I'm helping our teams to sell on those assets and getting involved with that side of things. So yeah, it's a very varied role, and I think that is one of the highlights for me, is that you can get involved in a lot of different aspects of work, and yeah, it's great. Also, I really do love being part of a project and being able to see the work that you've gone into it and seeing it on television, and that, you know, that's a real joy for me.
Fantastic. Go on, tell us what your favorite show that you worked on has been.
I think for me, Top Boy, it was because it's special one to me because it was the first show that I worked on. I did love the show previously, and it's set in London, and sometimes you might recognize an area in the show. Yeah, so it's got a special place in my heart.
Oh, that's lovely. Thank you. Lisa, if you could talk to us about a typical day for you.
I'll certainly try. So as highlighted, that there isn't a typical day. So I'm continually kept on my toes and must respond to changing priorities quickly. So my days are very fast paced. One day I might be asked to advertise a new role we need to recruit for, which entails speaking to the hiring manager and their needs for the new role holder to create an accurate job description and job advert. Another day I'll be working through payroll to ensure our colleagues pay correctly. Another day I might be working collaboratively with our CEO and our leadership team to further develop our best talent strategy. So, but I suppose for the key for me is on the whole, every day I will be speaking to and working with many different people from junior teams through to the CEO and the leadership team. And working with people and striving for the agency to create the best culture to enable it to grow is most definitely the highlight for me of this job.
Fantastic. Now tell me, what is the most interesting job, in your opinion, that you've ever had to recruit for a creative marketing agency?
Oh, good question. Interesting. So I recently was involved in recruiting a senior conceptual creative team. So I think that job is very interesting to me. So often they come in pairs. So you'll have somebody who does the conceptual art direction for a production, for example, or a campaign, but they work very closely with a copywriter as well. So I find that a really, really interesting job, and so an interesting job that I've had to recruit for in this particular industry.
And presumably you've hired TV producers and you've got people with TV production experience at the agency. Yeah.
Yes,
and
yeah.
we'll of course be working with people like Marsha, because she might not be working on movies, she might be working on a TV commercial.
Absolutely, indeed. So so yeah, you really do get to meet a huge variety of people as part of working for a marketing agency.
Sounds fascinating. Thank you. Jerry, tell us about your current typical day working with all these theatres and film companies.
Others. Yeah, there is no typical day, I have to say, and I know most people would say that, but it's genuinely true. I suppose, bear in mind, I'm the most junior in the office. I'm a trainee. I'm what recruiters call a career changer. So as the most junior in the legal department, because we're a slightly larger organization than just the law firm, anything can happen to me, frankly. So anything can come in via email, phone, walk through the door, literally. So it's about organizing your time. I think that's the focus of my day, and it's been a baptism of fire in a sense for me, because there are various differences, key differences between what I do now and what I used to do, and I'm sure we'll get to backstory in a minute. But I have to get used to this working online, which in my previous existence I didn't do at all. In fact, it was not that appropriate really. So I do a lot of meetings online. I organize my time scrupulously, and then it all gets shattered because a priority email comes in and I have to deal with that. It's an exercise in a way in slow thinking and not reacting too fast. I think as a lawyer, you absolutely have to slow yourself down and concentrate on one thing at a time. And if you allow yourself to stray from that path, that is stressful and you don't do your best work. And it sounds really simple, but it's an incredibly difficult thing to do, I'm finding, at least. So that's my challenge each day, is just to keep focused and be responsible for the way I do my job. It's very self-reliant in that sense. And I work in a hybrid setup, so which is great. I can work from home where I am now, and I can go into the office, which is in Manchester, maybe 2 or 3 days a week as well.
Yes, that's one of the fantastic things about the creative industries, is that they really reacted to the pandemic by going hybrid. And so now we're all very used to this life where sometimes, you know, you might be on a shoot, or you might be at the office, or you might be at home. And I think that flexibility is here to stay. Thank you very much, Jerry. And finally, Marcia, could you talk to us about what is turning out not to be typical days? Because that's one of the nice things about the creative industries, is every day is different.
Exactly. And that's why I think it's such an interesting career, because you do have to think quickly. Definitely in makeup, there's many changes. So my day consists of a call, what we call a call. So we bring artists in. We are always the first people in and the last people out. So we're always early to get people ready. And so we might have very early calls depending on the type of drama it is. If it's a period drama, generally there's a lot of wigs involved, hairstyling, which means that we have to get people in pretty early. If it's contemporary, then probably less so, but nevertheless, always earlier than everybody else. So we'll get the artist in. We'll go through what we have done previously, which is a breakdown of what this artist's looks are. And the breakdown consists of us really going through a script, reading it line by line, seeing if there's, you know, any call for makeup, additional makeup specifically. It could be that someone got slapped, and so we've got to then consider what that slap will look like. Would it be on the left hand, the right hand side? You have to understand all of these things and know exactly where we and what it would look like at that moment. And so we do a breakdown to make sure that if anything happens during the day where a scene is changed, for example, we've always got the breakdown to refer to, which stops us from sort of thinking on the hop, what do we need to do now? We'll know because we've done a breakdown for every single scene. So what we do is in the mornings, we look at the breakdown or the night before and just make sure we're prepared for that artist to come in. Then we'll go to set. We may have a discussion with the director or the first AD. First AD tends to be the voice of the director on set and lets us know exactly what's going on within a specific scene. So we might have a conversation with that person or those people just to make sure that they're happy with, you know, what we have done or what we may plan to do. They might decide that, you know, we want a little bit more blood. We have to make sure we're prepared with everything within our set bag. So, you know, we are like bag people. We walk with a load of different bags with a lot of kit in there. So it's quite strenuous work as well, quite physical. So that's what we do generally on set. But then behind the scenes, we're doing things like continuity. So we're making sure that all the looks that we have done are all documented. So for example, if somebody else had to make somebody else up, everything that we've used is documented. We've taken photographs of everything, so that there's a lot of record keeping. There's a lot of paperwork involved really in makeup. It's not just, you know, it isn't just makeup. And as I said to you earlier, there's a lot of research as well that's involved. You know, I've had to do what somebody would look like if they were pulled out of a canal 1 week later. You know, so there's a lot of different images in my phone that, you know, might be questionable. But yeah, we'll look up things like that, obviously, to make sure that we are depicting it exactly the way it should look. And as I said, that could be different bullet wounds in regards to what gun will produce as it sort of enters and exits the skin. We need to know all of those things as well. So there's a lot of research, and it's really interesting as well because, of course, you're also expanding your brain, you know, things that you would never really look up. You find yourself doing that sort of within makeup. Of course, I also manage a team too. So also make sure that my team know exactly what they're doing when they're on the bus and when they're on set. And then we might have things like stunt people coming in. So we have to look for wigs to make them look like doubles of cast. So there's a lot involved really in, you know, our job. People think it's just makeup, but it really isn't.
That's extraordinary. And it really has opened my eyes. I watch a lot of sci-fi, as I mentioned earlier. And so I can just picture why it is that you guys are always the first people in and the last people to leave. There must be some 4 a.m. starts in your career, I would have thought, just to try and get someone to look like a Vulcan or whatever.
Exactly.
Thank you very much. Let's talk about how we all got into our jobs, and see if some of those routes might be of interest to the people watching us. My route into advertising was fairly classic in that I applied for a graduate scheme from university and joined a big advertising agency, as I've mentioned before, as a client service exec. Now, what was unusual, I think, was that it was incredibly hard to find out about that job. I really did come across it by accident, and I fancied it because it sounded very much like running a students' union, if I was honest, and I really liked doing that. So I really think I was just very fortunate to come across it, because, you know, it wasn't advertised widely, Nowadays, it's much easier to get in. There's so much more information that's out there. And of course, there are apprenticeships as well. So I'm just going to ask everyone, and I'm going to kick off with Jerry talking about personal route into the job role. And Jerry, I know that you have an incredible backstory. Before you were a solicitor in the creative industries, you were many other roles. Please tell us all about it.
Yeah, it was. I mean, they were very different roles. So I suppose leaving school, to be honest, A levels weren't my strongest suit. So I didn't want to go to university for various reasons, and I realised that I was creative, but also I could organise things. I started at art school for a year, and then I went to drama school. I did 2 years at drama school. I didn't want to be an actor. I knew what being an actor was. I didn't want to do that, but I wanted to be immersed in the world of theatre. So I did a stage management and technical theatre course at Guildhall in London. That was a couple of years. I did about 10 years of stage management. I worked all the time. It was a great grounding. And it really suited me because I could think on my feet, and I could organize, I could arrange things. And that's essentially what you do as a stage manager. You also get a really fundamental grounding on what it takes physically to put a theatre production together: lighting, sound, set, etc., costume, makeup, all those things. So that took me around the country a lot. You're on tour, it's late nights, often really unpredictable hours. Great people, really great people to sort of grow through your early 20s with, as I did. I ended up settling at a theatre company in Manchester. And I was a stage manager there for a year or two before I decided that I wanted to try something that I perceived to be a little more creative. So still organizing, but I just wanted a kind of a sidestep. And I was very lucky at this point, because the people at that theatre company said, okay, why don't you try casting? Now, how that opportunity came about was partly luck and partly me knocking on that internal door, I suppose, over and over again, and finally somebody said, yeah, come on, we'll give you an opportunity. And I didn't look back from there. So I became a casting director, still within theatre, and I did that job for over 25 years. So that's been most of my adult life as a casting director. So for any of you who are asking what a casting director does, well, and I'm still within the context of stage here, every stage production needs actors. You can probably lose pretty much any other element, but what you do need is actors. How do you find them? Well, you can look in your own address book and see who you know, or you can employ somebody like me, either freelance or as part of your theatre company, to throw a net wide and get the best possible actors in through the door for your stage productions. And that's what I did for many productions, and I can't remember how many. I really can't. It was a very long time, but it was a thrilling time, and I developed a real sense of, as much as a non-actor can, a real sense of what it takes to be an actor, and a huge respect for the people who do that job. And I hope I gained a fundamental understanding of what drives actors, what makes a good actor. After all, that was my job. I did have a job which was about selection. There's no question about that. But I had to have a very good eye. And I had to work with other production professionals, so directors, designers, choreographers, musicians and composers as well. So as a group, you kind of put together a cast of actors. After 25 years, I suddenly decided that I wanted to do something completely different. And lockdown was a really good opportunity to retrain. So in my 50s, I decided that I did want to go to university after all. So I went to law school, and I did a couple of years training to be a lawyer, which was incredibly difficult, like you wouldn't believe, like I didn't believe, but I got through it, and I'm really, really glad that I did. So I made this what felt like a real 180 pivot to something completely different. But at the same time, I knew that if at all possible, I wanted to practice law within the creative industries. And again, for the second time in my life, I had a huge stroke of luck, and somebody said, yeah, okay, in Manchester, here we are, we're a law firm, and we exist to provide legal services to an awful lot of creative clients. And that's where I landed my training contract, which is what I'm doing now. And I've been doing that for about 9 months. So
that's fantastic. And what's interesting about your story is the way that you started off with one role in the creative industries, and it enabled you to morph into another one. And a lot of the time, you know, you start in a fairly humble position, but it's remarkable how it can build and build and build. So thank you very much for sharing that. Lisa, tell us about how you got into being head of people at an ad agency.
Indeed. So my journey has been a very winding pathway, if you like. So it took me a little while actually to find a role in a creative industry. So I consider myself to be a very creative individual. So I studied art at college, and that was actually my best subject. However, back in the day, there wasn't a lot of information about creative careers, and that's why I think obviously initiative like Discover Creative is such a great thing, because I just didn't know about what jobs there were. So I then kind of went on to study psychology at university. So that was another area that I was very, very interested in. And then post-university, again, I didn't really have this defined idea of what I was going to do with my life. So I tried a few different things. So I went into administration, actually. So I did a lot of administrative roles in lots of different companies, including property, local authority, and then into legal recruitment. Whilst I was in a legal recruitment, I actually, again, a little bit like Jerry, kind of thought, you know what, I quite like the idea of becoming a legal recruitment consultant, and kind of, again, knocked on that internal door and had a conversation with the director of the company at the time. And that's what I then did. I then became a legal recruitment consultant, which I did very much enjoy. However, I still had this yearning for kind of developing myself and something, you know, trying to find that kind of creative niche. So I actually decided to try my hand at primary school teaching, actually. So I retrained. So I studied for a postgraduate certificate in education, and kind of went into primary school teaching for a little while. However, this yearning still kind of carried on, really. So post having a family, a young family, I actually decided to go back into administration, and that's how I fell into HR, really. So I was asked to look after the HR administration for a small housing charity, small housing association. And very quickly that developed into a full-blown HR role. And I very quickly realised, oh my goodness, this is my perfect career. So for me, HR very much kind of brought together all of the elements of the learning that I had done, my experiences to date into one career. So teaching and recruitment all form part of that HR career. And so I kind of felt like, oh, I think I found my career path now. So I wanted to develop my skills even further in HR. And that's when I kind of stumbled across the advertising industry, really. So I found a job that was advertised for a very well-known advertising agency as in HR. which I was successful and developed my skills within a marketing agency, advertising agency. And then in 2018, I decided that I wanted to study again, knowing that HR was absolutely the career for me. So I decided to simultaneously study for a CIPD qualification, which is like a well-known HR qualification, and that was in HR management. At the same time, I also took on a job at Cogent, so obviously another marketing agency in the West Midlands, as a HR advisor, so it was a step up from my previous role. And I've been very fortunate to have been supported at Cogent to over the last 4 or 5 years to develop my career to the role that I am now as head of people. So for me, again, I feel like I found the perfect mix really of HR in the creative industry, where I can combine my passion for both worlds.
Fantastic. Thank you. I think we're getting quite a few themes coming out here. One of the interesting ones has been something that you might not be aware of, which is the creative industries. There's a great deal of lifelong learning goes on and a lot of retraining as is necessary. So you're never stuck and you are supported and developed once you're in this industry. Okay, so Marsha, if you could be next, please, telling us about quickly about your path to your current role.
Well, like Lisa, very windy. So I started out in the very beginning in housing. Then I did a counselling certificate and started working with young homeless people in housing as well. Then I moved into working in the community with homeless ex-offenders. I've had to write all this down because it's quite a lot. And then after doing that, I actually moved to America to start a hair and beauty magazine with a friend of mine. You know, I knew I loved hair and beauty. It was a trade magazine, but it's not like I'd ever worked in the industry, but it was something that was always a passion, something I'd always researched and investigated. The magazine didn't work, so I got a job as a proposal writer for a non-for-profit housing organisation. So the theme comes back to housing. And then whilst I was doing that, I decided that, you know what, I really want to change my path. And decided that, you know, what had been always a passion of mine, makeup, sort of informally, you know, I kind of realized it was a career in makeup. There's a lot of makeup artists in America. And I thought, well, you know what, I think I may be able to do this as well. Just always being creative, doing friends' weddings, you know, people that I know, doing the makeup for them. I just thought, well, let me try my hand at that. So I contacted an organization called MAC, who were huge within the industry at the time, and wrote to them just saying, I've got a real interest in makeup. I would love to work for you. And so they were very kind and they offered me an interview. I had to do a trade test, which basically means go and do a model's makeup. And I managed to get through that. And that's how my career started with MAC. So MAC gave me a lot of training. They offer a lot of training to their makeup artists, and you have sort of different certifications that you can do with them. I got to advanced, which was basically fashion shows. So I did a lot of fashion, a lot of editorial, did some work with Harpo Studios. I lived in Chicago, Harpo Studios, which was Oprah Studios at the time. So got to work in entertainment. And then after that, I came back to England. In England, makeup still wasn't such a big deal. And to be honest with you, they didn't pay as much as they did in America. And work wasn't as great. So I went back working. I went actually to work in prison. So obviously I'd worked with ex-offenders in the community. So that's when I went to work in the prisons and as a resettlement officer, getting people ready for release. Whilst I was doing that, it's a very stressful job, trying to get people homes to go out to. Some of them have been, you know, to many, many hostels, and it's almost like they're the end of the line. And it was just a very stressful job. And so then I moved into education myself, Lisa, and did a teaching certificate. and worked with young people, 16 to 18-year-olds, with learning difficulties. And whilst I was doing that, it was very stressful. And I continued to do makeup all the way through this as a freelancer. And then I kind of decided that, you know what, I think makeup is going to be the route that I go into. I kind of made my peace with feeling that makeup wasn't such a worthwhile job, and that everything else I was doing was more worthy, helping people. But then I had many experiences with people when I'd done their makeup, almost for them life-changing, just for them to know that even if their foundation color was matched correctly, it's made a big difference to how they feel about themselves and their confidence. Some people may not have gone out for a while. It might be the first time they're going out for years because of some trauma that they've had. Doing their makeup just made them feel better, and you could see the confidence building. And so because of that, I kind of made my peace that, makeup is still very worthwhile, and it isn't just about aesthetically what you're putting on their face, it's how it makes people feel within. And so I kind of made my peace and just decided that that was the route that I was going to continue with. But because I've done fashion, I've done beauty, I've done editorial, the only thing that I hadn't done was television. And so I joined a TV boot camp, which was in Birmingham, and I was introduced to a program called Trainee Finder through Screen Skills. And I applied, and I was very, very fortunate, one out of many, many people across the country, to be 7 trainees within the makeup department who had managed to get through. And in fact, Eugene, my first job was Top Boy. So I worked as a trainee on Top Boy. So you were probably paying me. So that's what I did. And
thank you.
I've managed to continue within this career, and that's because of the fact that it is different. I do get to move around the country. I don't get to stay in one place all the time, which I enjoy. And obviously now I've worked my way up to become a hair and makeup designer. And once again, lots of training has gone on behind the scenes, lots of hair courses. I did one on Saturday as well. So I never stop learning. I'm always doing something.
Yeah. I completely agree with that. And I do think the creative industries are brilliant at lifelong learning, and also no learning is ever wasted. So do bear that in mind, everyone. Fascinating story, fascinating career. We'll just end this question with Eugene before we move on. So again, Eugene, tell us how you got into your job at Netflix.
Sure. I'll start off with, so I did an economics degree at university, and I really didn't know what I wanted to do after leaving university. I knew I was good with numbers, and that was probably my strength. So I decided to go down the sort of accountancy route, and I had a few different jobs in various different positions, and I ended up working in the tax department for a supermarket chain. Although I liked parts of the role itself, I knew that it didn't give me the sort of variety, or there was something missing. So I decided to look around, and as I was looking around, I sort of noticed in the credits for films that I've been watching that there was an accounts role there. So I did a bit of research, and I had no idea that I could sort of use the skills I had gained so far in this industry. And I found a training scheme that was being run by Netflix at the time. And it offered classroom training and also a job placement, a short placement on a show to sort of get hands-on experience and the feel for the industry. So that's when I started working on Top Boy. And yeah, that was amazing. It was really eye-opening for me. I had no idea that there's so many different roles and all of them things that go into making a production. After doing the training scheme, I had a few other placements on Netflix shows before taking an internal position. So my job now is slightly different to what I was doing before. But yeah, just as exciting and as much variety.
Fantastic. What we're definitely hearing here as well is there's no harm in making what you're passionate about your career. So, for example, I'm passionate about people development. So I do people development within the creative industries. I really enjoy that. So you don't have to take a job that bores you. Try and take a job which fits in with a passion of yours. And as you'll gather, there's nearly always a training course that will help you. Okay, last question, and I hope you're going to pose some questions out there for the panel, but let me ask my last question. So if everyone could very quickly and snappily give 1 or 2 skills that they think are absolutely vital in their current role, and maybe also a top tip for how you get in. I'll kick off and we'll all be very quick. My thing is to say that my role, you need to be very organized, and also very persuasive. And my top tip is you can get in at any age. There are apprenticeships in, advertising, as there are apprenticeships in all the other roles. So, and you can do that whether you're a grad or not. So that's probably a very good way to start thinking about getting an actual job in my sector. So we're going to kick off with Lisa. Lisa, give us a couple of vital skills and maybe 1 top tip. Thank you very much.
Absolutely. So relationship building and influencing, I believe, is a crucial skill, particularly in HR, particularly for my job, but also for our industry as a whole. As is curiosity and empathy. They're also very, very important. So HR is a role where you must always be very curious. And as Gwyn has already kind of highlighted, you are continually learning and developing as well. Learning about the business and latest research and insight to ensure our business is meeting its desired goals, as well as caring deeply about the people. So striving for the best culture and environment for our talented people. So my advice for somebody looking to get into HR is, again, try and arrange some work experience if you can. Networking and or mentoring, finding a mentor, speak to different people in HR. From my experience, we're all a great bunch of people and always welcome offering advice or mentoring to support the next generation of HR talent. And again, HR apprenticeships are a thing as well, and I think are a brilliant way of accessing HR if that's a career that you are interested in.
Thank you very much. So, Marcia, can we have your 2 skills and 1 top tip, please?
Yes, communication is key, organisation is essential, and top tip is to continue to learn and to do as many short courses, even if it's a day, 4 hours, 3 weeks. Do as many courses as you can in all aspects of makeup. So SFX, hair, barbering, makeup, basically period makeup. Just do as many courses as you can. Those courses and what you learn will always at some point come in handy.
Thank you. Excellent advice. And Eugene, let's have your 2 skills and your top tip. Oh, I think you've got your mute on.
Yes, I think as previously mentioned, I think being willing to learn and train up and gain new skills has been key for me. I think in this industry there's so many different jobs and a lot goes into it, and if you're able to sort of communicate with other people and gain information from others, it will help you do your job much more efficiently and get better results. I think a tip for someone pursuing a career is have a look at the various different training courses. I know the Screen Skills run lots of courses, and really just have a go and really throw yourself into it. There's a lot out there, and you just got to look for it.
Thank you very much, Eugene. And finally, could we have Jerry, if you could give us your 2 skills and 1 tip, that would be very helpful.
It's a really simple one. Listen. And by listening, I mean, listen to what other people tell you. Listen to yourself as well. This is something that can get you out of all sorts of anxiety and stressful situations. If you can train yourself to just take a moment and really listen to what the person is telling you, what the email is saying to you, or what you yourself are telling you, that will get you forward in all sorts of different situations. I know it's been the case across my career. It's the foundation of good acting. It's the only way to be a lawyer. Listening is absolutely key. And my second thing is, I think that a lot of young people have a lot of pressure put on them to have a passion in the first place. And I think that is quite stressful in itself. So I'm going to say, you know, if you do have a passion, and actors, for instance, do, great, all well and good, that is fantastic, but you don't have to. You can spend time finding what your passion is. You can try things out. Everybody here has said, try things out. I'm saying do that in order to find what your passion is. Don't be cornered or stressed into saying, oh, I'm passionate about this, I'm passionate about that. You take your own time and find your passion yourself, because that's the only honest way of doing it, I believe.
Fantastic advice. And you're quite right. A lot of us have sort of dotted around until we got the thing that really lit up for us. Nothing is forever. Try things out and see whether or not it's for you.